YouTube comments from a video titled, "Did COVID change your brain?" Doctor explains. Part 1.
David8438 wrote,
I believe COVID has essentially given millions of people something very much like fibromyalgia. Look up fibromyalgia and see if a lot of your symptoms don't mirror those of fibromyalgia. It's an insidious disease that you don't want.
JV2244 wrote,
February will be 6 years of 24/7 hell for me. It hit every system in my body hard, and it's rotated systems in no particular order. It took me a year and a half just to learn how to walk again. Most of my 105 symptoms have diminished, but the neurological symptoms still linger.
골뱅이 윤지연이 로트.
Hello, I'm a second-year med student and I used this research in my presentation about COVID-19 and its recent updates. It was so helpful. Thank you so much.
Kylie Barnes 1651 wrote,
COVID has ruined my life. Either the vaccine or the actual virus caused me to have a large stroke at the age 635. I have become paralyzed in my left arm. Thankfully, I'm right-handed and it affected my left leg, and I've been ever since then been learning how to walk again. I will never be able to walk without a walking stick or a arm to steady myself on. I've had to leave my house that I bought and move into a retirement village because it has constant help. Nurses see if I have a fall or something, I can just press a button on a chain around my neck and they can come aid me. If I was home and fell, I would have to ring for an ambulance just to get me off the ground. The retirement village is beautiful, so it's not like I'm living in an old people's home. This place is state-of-the-art for retirement villages, and I'm only a 5-minute drive in my wheelchair to a main shopping center, so I can go to the cinema if I wanted. Not yet, but Lolit is a option law. I can't live with my emotional support animal cat because he doesn't like it at the village, and even though I need him, I won't make him suffer by forcing him to life. Here, he now lives with my parents and seems to like it cause he gets to go outside when he is at his grandparents' place.
Tag 2024 wrote,
Got COVID in 2023 and have had trouble remembering words. My spelling is now horrible, and my focus is also horrible. I told my doctor about it, and she blew me off. Trying to find a different doctor.
Stephanie 6727 wrote,
Yep, I've been infected twice, the first time in February 2022. I now have chronic fatigue syndrome, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, difficulties with speech, concentration, memory. It's like I have ADD. I can't work nor do most of daily chores. COVID-19 is not just a cold like some people think.
Margie Winslow 872 wrote,
Ivy had every vaccine and booster on schedule. Not problems. Then I got COVID at a family reunion. Half were anti-vaxxers and treated COVID as the flu. I've met many who have had severe long-lasting effects, like one lady I met in the hospital whose pituitary was destroyed. It's not flu. At 76 with an 89-year-old husband, we decided that the relative risks were worth getting the vaccine. Glad my case was considered mild, though it was very flu-like. I think my brain is okay.
Georgette Robinson 01 wrote,
I can tell it's affected me pretty badly. Things aren't the same at all. My short-term memory has gotten pretty bad, and my sleep habits are also bad. I can sleep good anymore and can't sleep longer than 3 to 4 hours at a time.
Noramac 0123456789 wrote,
I have COVID Delta, and ever since onions have never smelled the same. I also had to change coffee brands. I've had it since, a much milder form, no significant changes. I was never vaccinated but did receive monoclonal antibodies after that first infection.
DS 8184 wrote,
I still have not got my full sense of smell back years later. I used to love scented everything. Now I either can't really smell it, or it just smells really artificial and off.
At Britbumpbuddy 9221 wrote,
Ever since I'd COVID, I can tolerate the taste of alcohol. I need a lot more sleep than I previously did, but I don't think it made my asthma any worse. Breathing didn't get better, but it's not worse either.
Panicoke 020 wrote,
My smell was 10/10. Now I don't smell it, or it smells different than it was. Also tasting food. Or it tastes totally different. Or it tastes a lot less, or one ingredient comes out very strong.
At Diana Marie 23051 wrote,
I have long COVID. I had it twice. The first time was the worst one. I couldn't stay awake. My family couldn't find my pulse. I slept for over a week straight. That's how I quit smoking cigs without any withdrawal. I slept right through it all. I had such a high fever that my head was pounding. I lost my smell and taste for 13 months. When it came back, it was altered, so I could not smell or eat anything because they smelled and tasted rotten. I also had nerve damage in my legs, feet, and wrists. I'm chronically fatigued. I don't remember what kind the first COVID was. It was right in the beginning, right after it was announced. And then I had Omicron the second time about a year or so later. That wasn't as bad. My boyfriend got it once and he had zero symptoms. The only reason we found out was because he was exposed at work, and work made him test. So when I was sick, he was immune to it or showed no symptoms ever. I felt like death the first time. The second time wasn't bad at all. And he had nothing, the lucky duck.
At Nussnacker 9827 wrote,
Autopsies and comparisons of people with ME, AIDS, polio, GWS, and MS are very important. COVID can cause myalgic encephalomyelitis. Autopsies of ME brains and spinal cord showed the same inflammation and damage as people who died of AIDS, polio, multiple sclerosis, and Gulf War syndrome. ME also has many matching markers with chronic polio. You can look up Dr. Brian Hyde. He has done research on this. ME being the main focus. Hopefully, we get funding to help people who develop ME from COVID, as it's one of the worst illnesses on earth with the lowest score in quality of life and basically no medical support. The WHO has known of ME since the moon landing, but hasn't built any hospitals or trained medical staff to help patients who are slowly dying of this brutal illness. We urgently need more specialized autopsies, funding for patients/clinics, and training of medical staff.
At Arinkavlak 8953 wrote,
COVID also causes blood clots. I ended up with one the length of my entire right leg and had to have surgery. I worked on my feet my whole life and healthy. So it was a shock.
At Erisimmons 1607 wrote,
I believe it. I have insomnia and had it really well managed. Now it's all kinds of messed up and the usual isn't working. Also have had lots of respiratory issues since.
Killerred X7D wrote,
Iniziato con l'esperimento di vaccinazione contro la meningite batterica dell'Istituto Rockefeller sul troppo americano. L'esperimento del vaccino batterico del 1918-19 potrebbe aver ucciso 50 to 100 milioni di persone. Durante gli anni di guerra 1918-19, L'esercito degli stati uniti e solito a 6 po in T000. 000 di uomini. Con 2 po in T000. 000 di uomini inviati all'estero. Il Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research approfit di questo nuovo pool di cave umane per condurre esperimenti sui vaccini. Durante la prima guerra mondiale, l'Istituto Rockefeller inviance il suo siero sperimentali anti-meningococo in Inghilterra, Francia, Belgio, Italia e altri paesi, contribuendo a diffondere l'epidemia in tutto il mondo. L'Istituto Rockefeller e il suo vaccino batterico sperimentali contro il meningococo. Contrariamente alla mitologia accettata potrebbe aver ucciso 50 to 100 milioni di persone nel 1918-1919. Il razzo vaccino antibatterico usato nell'esperimento di Fort Riley sui soldati è stato fatto nei cavalli. Secondo un documento del 2008 del National Institute of Health, la polmonite batterica era il killer in un minimo del 92,7% delle autopsie della pandemia del 1918-1918. L'acqua pulita, I servizi igienici, lo sciacquone del bagno, I cibi refrigerati e la diet sane hanno fatto e fanno ancora molto di più per proteggere l'umanità del malati infettive di qualsiasi programma di vaccini. Nel 1918, l'industria dei vaccini sperimenta sui soldati, con risultati disastrosi. Ma nel 2018, l'industria dei vaccini sperimenta ogni giorno sui neonati. Il programma di vaccini non è mai stato testato convindato. I risultati dell'esperimento si sono. 1 su 7 dei bambini americani completamente vaccinati in qualche forma di educazione speciale e oltre il 50% ha qualche forma di malattia cronica. L'influenza spagnola ha ucciso circa 50 to 100 milioni di persone durante una pandemia 1918-19. E se la storia che si è stata raccontata su questa pandemia non fa sfera. E se, invece, l'infezione killer non fosse nell'influenza nell'origine spagnola. Documenti recentemente analizzati rivelano che l'influenza spagnola potrebbe essere stato un esperimento di vaccino militare andato male. La vera storia dell'influenza spagnola la ragione per cui la tecnologia moderna non è stata in grado di individuare il ceppo di influenza killer di questa pandemia e perché l'influenza non era il killer. Durante la prima guerra mondiale morirono più soldati per malattie perpetuali. La pandemia non era l'influenza. Si stima che il 95% OP del morti fu causato da una polmonite batterica, non da un virus influenzale. La pandemia non era spagnola. I primi casi di polmonite batterica nel 1918 risalgono il basi militari. Il primo a Fort Riley, Kansas. Dal 21 gennaio al 4 giugno 1918. Un vaccino sperimentale contro la meningite batterica coltivata nei cavalli. Dal Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research di New York fu iniziato nei soldati a Fort Riley. Durante il resto del 1918, quando che soldati che spesso vivevano e viaggiavano in condizioni sanitarie precari furono mandati a combattere in Europa. Diffusero I batteri ad ogni fermata tra il Kansas e le Trinity del Front in Francia. Uno studio descrive I soldati con infezioni attive che stavano aerosolizzando I batteri che colonizzavano I loro nasi e la loro gola, mentre altri, spesso, negli stessi spazi di respirazione. Erano profondamente suscettibili di invasione e rapida diffusione attraverso I loro polmoni di propri o altrui batteri colonizzanti. 1. L'influenza spagnola ha attaccato persone sane nel fiore degli anni. La polmonite batterica attacca le persone nel fiore degli anni. L'influenza attacca I giovani, I vecchi e gli immunocompromessi.
Quando la prima guerra mondiale fin, l'11 novembre 1918. I soldati tornarono nei loro paesi d'origine e negli avamposti coloniali, difendendo la polmonite batterica killer in tutto il mondo. Durante la prima guerra mondiale, il Rockefeller Institute inviance il suo siero sperimentale anti-meningococo in Inghilterra, Francia, Belgio, Italia e altri paesi, contribuendo a diffondere l'epidemia in tutto il mondo. Durante la pandemia del 1918-19, la cosiddetta influenza spagnola uccise 50 to 100 milioni di persone, compresi molti soldati. Molte persone non si rendono conto che la malattia uccise molti più soldati da tutta la particella, mitragliatrice o il gas mostarda o qualsiasi altra cosa tipicamente associata alla prima guerra mondiale.
At Nefarious Nexus wrote,
Oh, and have you heard about how it might have all been orchestrated by emergent rogue AI setting things in motion for its own liberation? And how Saudis declared a robot to have more rights than their women years earlier? Yeah.
At Rocker Cateror Encountered 4924 wrote,
The combination of post-exertional malaise and cognitive impairment took me from a full-ride scholarship for academic excellence to failing out of college in a matter of 3 or so months. It will be 6 years in January since that happened, and I've seen little to no improvement.
Edioti_Wraith1 wrote,
It did change my brain. I can now see bullshit narratives and a virus pushed on the mossies by a government to tycoon control and restrict freedoms. It worked pretty well. But now the term trust the science has lost its appeal.
At Vindicated Reject wrote,
Yes, I haven't been the same since. I'm chronically tired, horrific PEM that occurs even if I just text too much because it seems to strain my brain or something. I also developed an autoimmune condition where my immune system is attacking my stomach. I can barely remember things. It's so bad I can't even cook anymore because I can't get my brain in the right gear to process all the steps of a recipe and put them into action. My anxiety is bad, insomnia, super sensitive hearing, noise intolerance, and my mood is royally messed up. Before and after having COVID feels like looking at two different people, but yet it's still just me.
As Shadowsbane 877 wrote,
The thing that freaks me out is the loss of smell. I've lost easily 75% or more of my ability to pick up scents. Most everything just smells like, nothing, I guess. We made chili the other night. Nothing. But what gets me about it is that it didn't turn off my nose. I deleted those entries in my brain. My nose is fine, and the things I do smell are great. But I no longer have entries or even room for those entries in the catalog of my brain meat.
Echlorinius Mipperfume wrote,
That's interesting. All of these notifiable diseases are just that because they have a specific and permanent change in a significant proportion of the population. Long COVID and brain issues might be the impact from COVID. God.
And Mira EZ2NX wrote,
I became disabled from COVID when I was 14 years old. Can't go to school properly and haven't had friends for years. Doctors gave inappropriate advice and treatments, which made me even more ill. I can now no longer walk more than a few hundred meters and use a wheelchair. And yet, there is barely any funding nor prevention for COVID in the country I live in.
At Wayland Rhodes 1897 wrote,
I recovered from a COVID infection at the end of November, after enduring being sick for 3 weeks. I knew my brain was under attack. I feel like my cognitive abilities have been reduced in a noticeable way. My memory is awful. And my perception of time is absolutely messed up. My ability to verbally communicate has also changed a bit. I have always been creative with language and used to teach people how to communicate persuasively, but a lot of that is gone. I feel like I have become somewhat disabled.
At 9 Lives Lisa wrote,
I couldn't drink coffee after I had COVID.
It tasted terrible, and I was 67, and I had been drinking black coffee since I was 18 every day. It was 5 months until I could drink my morning coffee again.
A Genitalia 222 wrote,
Before I got the OG strain of COVID, I could do 6 to 12 number sequences memorized whether I saw it visually a couple times or heard it a couple times. Now I struggle with both. I've had COVID confirmed twice. It really affects my job performance. Takes longer to do tasks that others don't seem to have a problem with. I'm just relieved it didn't do the same thing for words, spelling, grammar, vocabulary.
Christoph 399 wrote,
After COVID, I can't smell good. Smells like the smell from a flower, so well anymore. For example, I barely can feel the smell of roses now. On the other hand, I became more sensitive with bad smells odor. Moldy food. About cognitive function, I have the feeling that my brain cannot connect information so well anymore. It's like a very short connection now. For example, in the past, if I think A, then I will also immediately think B, C, D, etc. until Z. Now I think A, my brain just stops at A. This is bad for thinking complex matters because I would need much more time trying to think deeper and wider. It's also bad for memory because of not being able to recall the past or other related information. So for example, I'm going out of the house, I think I need to take the keys with me, so I go looking for my keys, but my brain can't recall that I went out before and left the keys in my pocket.
At JKL 6326 wrote,
I didn't get infected, but I found it hard concentrating on my class lectures in high school during COVID and in college after that. Been almost 6 years since I have had a study session without being distracted or understanding things in one go. I was a really smart kid in early high school days before COVID hit, and now I'm barely average. But it might be the online classes that affected the quality of my studies, and everything just kept on piling up.
A Wispai wrote,
After getting COVID 4 times yes with boosters anyway, my lung capacity is at 60% of a normal person's is, and nothing I can do helps. I am on 2 different daily inhalers and a weekly nebulizer treatment, just so I can pretend to function normally. But my new normal is becoming out of breath very quickly, and honestly a fear of crowds because I don't want to get it a 5th time. I barely survived the last one.
At Whoop 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 01 wrote,
I've lived with asthma my whole life, but COVID changed everything. It turned my condition into what I call super asthma. My lungs just aren't the same. Now, simple tasks like getting up or walking across a room require 2 attempts, and even a minor cold puts me at risk of hospitalization. It has reached the point where I am now on disability because my breath just won't keep up with me. The turning point was last February during a blizzard. I woke up in the middle of the night, gasping for air, unable to inhale or exhale. We lived in a rural part of West Virginia, a mile and a half down a dirt road. Usually, the hospital is 30 minutes away, but that night the roads were completely impassable for my sister's Subaru. The fire department had to rescue me. They used a pickup truck, and 2 men actually had to walk in front of the vehicle, shoveling a path through the snow for over a mile just to reach me. They eventually got me to the end of the road where an ambulance was waiting. I felt terrible watching them work so hard in those conditions, but I am profoundly grateful. If they hadn't shoveled their way to my door, I'm not sure I would have made it. I hate what COVID has done. I'm surviving, but it took my father and 8 other family members. I try to consider myself lucky to be here, but living with these new lungs is a daily battle. So I don't know it if rewired my brain, but it certainly wrecked my lungs. I'm only 43. Hell, I'm not young, but I'm not old either.
At Aprila 4616 wrote,
I caught a nasty cold was not coming or flu a few weeks ago. That has given me memory loss and confusion. I have been struggling with my mental health because of it, and zero patience for anything or anyone.
At Angelvu wrote,
I can't remember anything clearly as I did before I got COVID. Like I ran out of storage on my phone and all my old downloaded photos are high quality, but the new ones are super blurry. I can't tell you what I ate today without thinking really hard, but I can tell you what I ate yesterday without hesitation. It's weird.
Acute Cheer Freak 1 wrote,
I swear I am not as intelligent since I was infected with COVID, and my asthma is a little bit worse too. Not intensely, but I have noticed the difference that
Star_Rattler wrote,
I don't need a doctor or a study to tell me my brain changed. That's my ME, and I can tell. Ever since I got COVID the first time, 3 times total, I noticed after a few months that my brain fog was worse. I have ADHD and ASD. E4, 1 fog thersins. Kumbas macy devenusti dodrogin. E4 kundublam and A. Mainsingsi prati dodrogin. E4 kundudrogin. E4 kundudrogin. And so I became familiar with my brain, how it works, and symptoms I experience. My ability to recall information tanked hard as I am still.
3 years later, forgetting basic words I use every day.
And my brain does this new thing I call flushing the thought toilet, where I'll be in the middle of a sentence. And all of a sudden, my mind, which thinks primarily in pictures and concepts but also many words too, just becomes totally blank and dark. No thoughts, no pictures, nothing. And it comes with a feeling. Same as when I try to recall info I just can't reach, but I know is right there. Distinctly different from the normal tip of the tongue feeling. Now with my asthma got worse, my dyspraxia got worse, I get regular daily heart palpitations that doctors have looked at thoroughly, and thankfully determined it's nothing scary or serious. Chompled, yes, COVID changed my brain.
At SDMA 1989 wrote,
This is refreshing to see and also sad to know, because so many of us suffer from these ailments and feel helpless at what we can do to fix ourselves. There is meaning with feel
At Bubblebird U5S wrote,
I feel dumber and struggle to just think more after COVID. I also struggle more to exert myself physically. I was already having difficulties with these as a lifetime sufferer of chronic fatigue and effects of severe emotional neglect, but COVID really dropped my baseline further. It was very disheartening because I had been improving my fitness slowly by pacing, only for COVID to leave me feeling like I'm suffocating while trying to do a brisk walk.
At AFS7529 wrote,
They your best troller any dayers wall. Any dayers, me. The brain fog and fatigue are unbearable, and too many doctors just shrug it off, because current testing standards can be so useless for diagnosing. For those suffering, check out studies on LDN low-dose naltrexone, NAC supplement, and using allergy meds plus antacid together antihistamines. Contact a long COVID clinic if you have one in your area.
At Penumbral Beast VT wrote,
I've developed a speech impediment after COVID. I now trip over my words way worse than I used to.
It feels like I have to say a word several times for it to sound right. Didn't have this before COVID.
At Hotmas_test wrote,
Yes, I have been saying that I believe COVID changed me since I first quadred in Novi 2019. Yes, really. I was so healthy. Waking up at 4 a.m., going to the gym, meal prepping, clean eating, going all day non-stop, single mom of 2. But ever since Nov 2019, I can't find the motivation or discipline to do much. I'm never on time to anything. Stopped exercising, gained weight, dealing with depression, diagnosed with ADHD. Everything changed. Me, 6 years ago, wouldn't recognize myself today.
At Nope 123, W6D wrote.
I used to think I had issues before COVID. I mean, and that and an LBO, 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 and an LBO. But now I live with issues worse than before. And for example, I had terrible migraines before COVID, and now I cry because I just want my pre-COVID migraines back. Post-COVID migraines are so much worse. And that is just one issue among many. I used to have pretty good endurance. And now I sleep all day. I name life is exhausting.
At Nicky Naps 420 wrote.
I couldn't think of words, was so exhausted, and my heart was flipping around in my chest. They diagnosed me with anxiety, never even looked at my heart.
At Sanid 5438 wrote.
Maybe it's just a correlation where people with these attributes had a higher probability of getting COVID rather than COVID infection causing these changes. If they could somehow look at people who had an MRI before COVID, then got infected with COVID, and do an MRI similarly for a control group where they were not infected and had an MRI before, it would be more useful.
At Robert 1871 wrote.
It's very clear that the majority of people's behavior changed. It was a zombie apocalypse that's still unfolding. The movies got it wrong. I don't need a study to know how it affected me, and I absolutely see it in the population as a whole.
At Adam Pepe 6139 wrote.
I hated Coke. I was a straight Pepsi guy. 100% of my liquids was Pepsi and energy drink. After COVID, I despised Pepsi. It tasted like burnt popcorn. To this day, cherry Coke suddenly tasted like gold. Aside from that, it was the best 10 days of my life.
Ecumic 17 wrote.
Didn't the same study, or a similar one, also say that the flu did similar things and that these changes were not all and not forever, but could last for up to a decade?
At Mrs. Cutis 2016 wrote.
I knew it. I've been telling all the doctors that I haven't slept well since I had COVID, and they all look at me like I'm nuts, and I can hardly breathe through my nose anymore.
At Ashton James 7003 wrote.
I got COVID back in April, and I'm just starting to get my sense of smell back. I've been taking zinc, vitamin C, vitamin D, and B complex to help support my immune system and sense of smell. My CC of smell isn't 100%, but it's coming back little by little.
Arroba fe. X_ wrote.
Yeah, my mum has post-COVID symptoms. She even struggled with talking for a long time after she had COVID. Her fibromyalgia worsened a lot. She's only recently really started to recover.
At Grayblories 7894 wrote.
The disabled community has been screaming this since the beginning of the pandemic. People who don't die from it can and still are being permanently disabled by it, even people who are healthy prior to infection.
At Gonercat 8753 wrote.
Great. No wonder I've been worse at academics since I've gotten COVID twice. Am I even me anymore? Or is the brain that I once was gone and I'm merely poor reflection of that self-same brain?
Jankum 7783 wrote.
To be fair,
COVID changed lifestyle of a lot of people as well. It also happened 5 years ago. Some of the changes that are given to COVID might be just aging.
At 111455 wrote,
It was a bioweapon after all. Why else would it have been in a defense-affiliated lab being experimented on? Why else did the world's governments collectively soil themselves trying to contain it? And why did Russia and China seem to have the first vaccine? ITWAS weapon.
AM 111LH wrote,
COVID ran through us in 2022, and my daughter now vomits every single respiratory virus she gets as soon as the runny nose begins and will continue to puke for the first 24 HRS. She feels hopeless she can work when she comes of age because she has to be home to vomit. It never happened the first 11 years of her life until immediately after COVID. Same strain caused delayed healing in my husband and I. My husband still deals with neurological misfires in his gut, giving him reflux, chills before bed from random dumps of adrenaline. These complaints started after his COVID infection, and they believe him, which is helpful. He will be okay. It's my daughter losing energy and nutrition, every virus that scares me for her.
At Calscana 8922 wrote,
How sad so many people laugh at this. They are mocking you like they just saw a funny movie. My boyfriend has problems with smell and taste to this day since COVID. One day is a little better, one day don't work so well again. Sometimes he is like he smells something but can't name it. We call this dog nose because I smell it different, barely or not at all.
At Three First Names 4187 wrote,
This is entirely meaningless. Why? Because there is no control. There is no way to know if the participants had these brain differences prior to COVID. There is also no way to know if people who say they never had COVID really never had it because of silent infections. Statistical inference here has far too many confounding variables to be useful.
At Lizard Jones 8465 wrote,
AI overview ME myalgic encephalomyelitis, also known as ME/CFS, involves core symptoms like debilitating fatigue, post-exertional malaise PEM, worsening symptoms after activity, cognitive issues, brain fog, unrefreshing sleep, and pain, plus other symptoms such as flu-like feelings, digestive problems, dizziness, heart palpitations, temperature sensitivity, and extreme sensitivity to light, sound, smells, foods, and meds, often fluctuating and impacting daily life significantly. Got any of these symptoms after a virus? See a tropical disease doctor for diagnosis.
At Tox 6669 wrote,
If you took the vaccine, then yes, it altered your brain. All of us who didn't take the claw shot are doing fine and have no residual effects. All Kai friends who took the vaccine are all doing horribly though.
At Yoshi 4691 wrote,
Memory loss and motor function are definitely declining after 6 infections. I'm in my 40s, but some days, I feel like I have the brain of an 85-year-old.
At Chesney Mimel 4538 wrote,
I remember reading about COVID brain when it first started. As someone with ADHD, I could only think maybe they'll get it now and start taking ADHD seriously too.
At Not Muriel Name 776 wrote,
The ENT I work with said anecdotally a lot of people had certain cranial nerves damaged, and although people talk about loss of smell, there has been a lot of hearing loss as well. Also, decent research out of Griff TAFE. Well, I'll be said as a student of the institution that gives all Australian universities massive side-eye right now.
At Artie Knows Too Much Random Stuff 78 wrote.
Man, so that's why I have horrible temperature control, sometimes hallucinate smells, and can barely remember anything before 2020. It honestly sucks not remembering that much of my life, even though from what I remember it probably wasn't anything great.
At Sparking Life 111 wrote.
Researchers need to ask the public what changes they've noticed and not question them, because the list that I'm seeing in the comments, there's no doubt.
At Wanderer 888 wrote.
I said it. During my first COVID encounter, I've had 3. It was so long and heavy recovery. I kept saying it felt like my brain had damage. I would get hot flushes and light flashes in the brain. It took over a year and focus or concentration levels to return, but the tension, fatigue, and tremors in my body are only starting to resolve now 4 years later.
At Shannock 1789 wrote.
Guess who got the vaccine while unknowingly having COVID because they don't test before handing out Pfizer injections? Guess if you're not supposed to get the vaccine when you're positive for COVID. Also, did anybody get treatment in this country? Okay, you're positive, good luck out there. Stay inside. Nobody mentioned zinc or vitamin D or anything useful for treatment. Why are we proud to be Americans?
At Megamaze00 wrote.
My life is dramatically different after having COVID. 4 years later, and I still can't smell or taste correctly. Limes taste like cinnamon, yogurt tastes lukewarm rotten eggs, dirt smells like rotten eucalyptus. Also, I can't think of common names for objects. Usually a word associated with the object's sound or general shape comes to mind instead of the specific object name. People's names are simply a black hole in my memory.
At Muffin Jones 001 wrote.
What about people who have not been vaccinated for flu in 35 years? Also not getting a COVID shot and still after 17 years have not gotten sick. I must be one of the oddities on this planet that no one talks about.
At Charlie at the Canesaw wrote.
The intended impact of the vaccines, not COVID itself. When people that want billions fewer people on Earth and love eugenics give you something for your health, you should think first.
At MG6960 wrote.
I distinctly noticed the difference between how I worked and studied before and after I got COVID. It's harder for me to focus and retain information than before.
Pink Yell wrote.
I definitely feel like I never fully recovered. Got it twice. Even now, I think my day-to-day performance is low, and I cannot concentrate and experience time slips.
At Liella's 8400 wrote.
They infected us with it so they can start feeding us insect powder, and we won't care about the taste when the food system goes to nil.
At Bonatakazares 2414 wrote.
I can say this for sure is a problem for me. I still have the hardest time finding the right word. And not in the normal way. It's like everyday things I use every day, and I just can't find the word for it. On a nearly daily basis, and some days more than others. And breathing for sure is a problem for me now too.
At FBB Waddell wrote.
I have lots of issues since my last infection. I was broke so I couldn't afford treatment. I haven't been the same. I was able to treat the first 2 infections and made a complete recovery in 3 months from those.
At H5N_1 wrote.
WTF happened after COVID. I wasn't affected, but it changed my whole life. The colors of the life vanished. All I craved for the connections with my friends, but everyone seemed very much graved in themselves. There's no pleasure in those small tasks, which we used to love.
At Lizard Jones 8465 wrote.
I got the H1N1 flu in 2009 and never recovered. I have myalgic encephalomyelitis. We were here before COVID and no one cared, told we had yuppie flu or were mentally ill. People with COVID should be thankful they don't have to start their research from scratch like we did.
At Terrasagillaland 2758 wrote,
I have can environmental research don't believe them any longer. How many took the shot? V's, how many didn't? This is propaganda. We have been poisoned for many, many, many years.
The Trooper 100 wrote,
My sense of smell is barely there. My sense of smell is barely there.
I don't feel motivated. For example, I have not played video games before. I used to be obsessed. I've really hard time remembering words. I got injected 4 times.
At TabbyQ 9563 wrote,
Getting COVID happened not long before starting a new job and entering menopause. I've had memory issues, but I really didn't think it could have been related to COVID until now. I assumed it was menopause. Dang. Being human is hard.
At Marion 297 wrote,
Thanks to 3 Pfizer mRNA shots, I'm not experiencing anything.
My mother unvaccinated, yes. She was that brilliant. Was dying here for 2 weeks in the next room, moaning that she didn't want to die, while I only experienced a mild 2-day cold.
Her lung function decreased significantly, maybe partially recovered since then, and I think she suffered mentally as well, but it's hard for me to judge that from the outside.
At Brad Brown 95 wrote,
Did they also test? Who had the vax and who didn't? Because I think that's a pretty important question. We are literally talking about an experimental injection here.
At Lady Fame 1430 wrote,
I hate to be that one to say in the comments, but were they also vaccinated? What's the difference before and after people who are vaccinated as well? Remember how many rounds people got?
At WV Almost Heaven wrote,
2 years ago, I had COVID and lost my taste and smell until the past few months. But it doesn't always work correctly. Some things still smell odd or smell like chemicals. But the brain fog was the worst at first. I knew what I wanted to say, but I couldn't think of what something was called. Luckily, I'd been married long enough I could describe something, and my husband would give me the word. It's a lot better, but I still have glitches.
That's what I call them.
Or sometimes I said odd things like, if I meant that I was going to the bathroom, but I would say kitchen instead. I even had difficulty remembering names. But since I have Sjogren's syndrome, joint hypermobility, fibromyalgia, arthritis, etc., I don't know if it made my pain, or if it's aging.
Edge Bailey 2016 wrote,
I had come down with the coronavirus, which caused the first SARS-1 epidemic back in 2003. It left me prone to panic attacks during unusual stress and exacerbated my insomnia to the point, without prescription sleep aids, I was incapable of falling asleep.
At Refrigerator 3786 wrote,
Medical gaslighting, at its finest, the thing that changed is a bunch of people woke up to all the lies. The powers that be can't have that, so they use individuals like this tool to continue trying to gaslight us into submission. They compared it to people who said they didn't have COVID, not people who actually didn't have COVID. A large amount of people can get the infection without showing any symptoms. I believe they were calling them asymptomatic, further demonstrating how much B this study is.
Wrote,
Still avoiding COVID successfully as far as anyone can tell, with masking at sea. Not been sick for 5+ years now at all. What changed my brain was seeing how little people care for prevention of a potentially long-lasting disease, for themselves or in their communities.
At Bajwa 8906 wrote,
The CCP's virus messed us up so badly. I knew it permanently changed the world and killed a few million people, but now we heard it permanently changed our brains too. We need to hold the CCP accountable for their negligence and causing the pandemic. This is not racist or xenophobia.
At Lou 4119 wrote,
Can we please explain this to people who are convinced that the vaccine profoundly changed people? I think it might be more logical that an unknown virus would do instead.
At Kingsley Mataji 620 wrote,
Now I have what I call COVID nose. I smell odors that aren't really there. A particular fake odor can last days in my head everywhere I go. Phantom odors.
At Urban Shadow 777 wrote,
No, I realized it after a few weeks when my ears started ringing and was having major migraines. Here I am 5 years later, and not a single doctor wants to or cares to know. I have given up completely with the NHS. Worse still, I was told it was all anxiety, and there was nothing wrong with me.
At Lisa Beck 5582 wrote,
Until now, I have always thought that I may have come down with COVID even though I was never actually diagnosed as such. But after watching this, if this is true, I don't think that anymore, because I don't suffer from any of these symptoms he describes in this video.
At Kevin Nestor 84 wrote,
This is why everyone should have tests done regularly. Otherwise, we won't have a large enough sample size to compare to when trying to determine the effects of these sorts of events.
At I Will Take the Sword wrote,
When I saw people in hospitals on ventilators and couldn't see their family, I didn't go. I should have, but I didn't want to be alone and scared and hooked up to a machine.
At The Political Cat wrote,
I did my best to keep everyone informed of all the research as it came out. I stayed away from people, stayed masked, stayed vaccinated. I've never had COVID, but I can tell a lot of people around me have. The way people are driving these days, you'd think they had about 5 brain cells left.
The Pit_Wizard wrote,
My ADHD went from being mild enough that I could deny I even had it, to very much undeniable and requiring medication, and the shift started around the time I got COVID. Could be a coincidence, but it's probably impossible to know.
At Dominic King 320 wrote,
SP, we know it messes up people permanently. We know it was man-made. We know that some people help push the spread of it unintentionally or not. How about some compensation FRFR?
At Knocked Light Cloud wrote,
I feel like what damaged me was the lockdowns and me isolating for months. Austria was particularly cruel with the lockdowns. I sometimes stuttered because I didn't talk with anyone for days.
At Aries 3744 wrote,
What I noticed is that 3 of the 4 members of our family have a chronic cough. It's been years since we got sick, and we tend to get out of breath easily, with a cough that manifests from time to time. In my special needs son, the cough hits daily.
At Lindsay Sharon 259 wrote,
After COVID, my ADHD went from bad to crippling. I lost the ability to even focus on my usual hobbies. I don't remember where anything is in my house anymore, and my memory in general is gone. I used to mask pretty well, but I can't do that anymore. The ADHD is simply too overwhelming in all aspects of my life. I can't even remember what surgeries I've had since COVID. I know I've had them, but I don't remember what year or even season. I'm terrified of getting it again and things getting even worse.
At Blifflesplick wrote,
COVID is weird. I knew I had it because I had the persistent urge to socialize when normally I'm pretty asocial. I had a recurring thought/pull to go to the mall and enjoy humanity's quirks very out of character when ill. I hermited extra hard. No way I was going to be controlled like an ant with a fungus.
Sherefort wrote,
So somebody weaponized C19. So they supposedly accidentally spread it to the world and made us worse in every way. Doesn't this mean intentional harm to humanity? And govs are failing to support us and give us benefits for breaking us in so many ways. WTF. Do you understand how long some of us had C19 for? Some of them had C19 more than 3x because either the virus reactivated in them or had it long term and it wouldn't go away. Mine took 2 years to recover from it, and I only ever got it once. I had walking, breathing, eating, sleeping Etsy issues. Since then my health hasn't been the same. I'm always sicker and worse if I get anything. And I'm not as strong as I used to be too, and my strength was everything to me since strength does a lot of for people's health.